Well, everybody starts sending me this tweet by our friend Tom Fitton over at Judicial Watch. And then I'm looking at the piece that they put out and an investigation they're involved in to find out if this Ukraine ambassador ordered State Department officials to monitor journalists and friends of the president or people that are outspoken in terms of the president. In other words, illegal surveillance perhaps took place. I can't say for sure that this did. Certain figures in the media and elsewhere, private conversations that are being held between private citizens were monitored in an effort to find out information that could hurt Donald Trump. That would be a constitutional violation. That would be something that you would expect in a third world banana republic. But I guess now that we know that we have had surveillance and unmasking at a very high level, we still need to get back to where we started in March a couple of years ago. That's fallen off by the wayside. But yeah, we now that know that, there's no reason for a UN ambassador, Samantha Power, to unmask American citizens, some 300 of them at a dramatic increased pace, like up nearly 400% in an election year. Never made any sense to me. And the issue of unmasking, if, for example, an American citizen is talking to somebody abroad that the government has their eyes on, well, then it would be normal for them to listen in on the conversation. But American citizens have constitutional protections, and they have a process that is known as minimization. And when the American citizen, unless they're talking about something horrible and illegal, they would minimize the listening and the conversation as it relates to the American citizen who has constitutionally protected rights. And then they, by the way, if they write up a report about said conversation, they would say an American. You would not unmask the name of the American citizen. Unmasking, leaking raw intelligence, all of this has happened. Anyway, Judicial Watch has obtained some information indicating that this ambassador may have violated laws and government regulations by ordering subordinates to target certain U.S. persons using State Department resources, and apparently, reportedly ordered the monitoring key to the following terms: Biden, Giuliani, Soros, Yovanovitch. And Judicial Watch has fired a Freedom of Information Act request with the State Department and continue to gather facts. All right. I want to say very clear of anything that is not factual here, Tom Fitton. I read the piece. Right. Do we know this happened for a certainty? We don't know yet.
Well, our sources say it did. And so the concern is, and this is the process, is that the government, and certainly the government abroad, our representatives abroad, can't use government resources to track even the public communications like tweets or public comments by American citizens. And so evidently that was going on in the Ukrainian embassy using the search terms that you highlighted, Biden, Giuliani, Soros, and Yovanovitch. They then sought additional help to do that process, that project, from the State Department here in Washington, D.C., and that's when someone said, well, hold on a second, you can't be doing this at all, you got to stop it, it's illegal. And so we don't know if they actually stopped it. We're not sure how long it went on for, but we do know that this target list is pretty darn accurate. I don't know if it's complete, but it includes you, other Fox News personalities, and contributors associated with Fox and other conservatives who are known for taking strong stances on social media, certainly allied with President Trump generally. So it's very curious that they would be concerned about these issues. Biden, Soros, and Yovanovitch, way back, it looks like the date time frame is back in March of this year, so it was before she was removed.
But this wasn't even really an issue at the time, was it? I mean, we were focused on many other things at that time, if I recall, and, not the least of which, I guess, was the pending Mueller report. When did the Mueller report come out?
The Mueller report came out around the same time, but the noises about Biden and Ukraine began around that same time frame, if you go back and check. So you have to wonder why it is. We don't know why these individuals such as you made it onto the list. I don't know. Did you start tweeting about Yovanovitch? Probably not.
I didn't, actually. I did not, but I had guests on. It was never my issue, to be very blunt. I know that we covered it with, the overarching issue, which was what we got a lot of new information on today, which was, Hunter Biden. And I thought that interview was a disaster on Good Morning America today. And, I have no experience. Why do you think they picked you? I don't know. I have no idea. You think maybe it has to do your father's the vice president? I don't know. I have no idea. That's not exactly the most, confidence building answer to anything. I don't even know why they let him on the air. No, well, it's a conspiracy to say that it was my father. And I'm like, well, who else gets $1.5 billion deal? Goldman Sachs does, or Deutsche Bank, or Bain Capital, the company Citibank, or J.P. Morgan Chase. They get those deals. Doesn't sound like a firm with Whitey Bulger's nephew, John Kerry's stepson, and Hunter Biden that have no experience in this. Apparently, he admitted this morning he didn't. That doesn't seem like a move that any bank would ever make. It just happens to be a bank literally tied to that is the government of China, the Bank of China. Yeah.
And those big companies wouldn't even gotten the deal from China because it hadn't happened before. It was an unusual circumstance that the Chinese started to throw money Biden's way in this regard, allowing him to invest and manage the funds allegedly. He's confirming that he was involved in it because, he probably got the benefit because of his name. And he also confirmed that he did talk about the business in some fashion with his father, contrary to what Mr. Biden has said previously, that he didn't talk any time about his business issues with his son.
Did you catch the word games that were going on between the lawyer and Biden? Well, I haven't made a penny. And then it's like, yeah, but his own lawyer admits that they have some equity in this whole thing. I mean, it's fascinating to me. He said, well, no, I haven't made a single penny, not 1 penny, not 1 cent. Okay. He
hasn't cashed out yet. Right.
He hasn't cashed out yet. And his own lawyer even admitted, he said he didn't play a role in the formation or licensure of the company, nor owned any equity in it while his father was vice president. He served only as a member of the board of directors, et cetera, et cetera. To date, Hunter he's not received compensation, any compensation for being on the board of directors. He has not received any return on his investment. There's been no distributions to BHR shareholders since Hunter obtained his equity interest. So he has an equity interest. Okay, so he's going to get a big payday coming down the line at some point. How many millions will it be is the question, right?
Exactly, and this is why the coup is taking place against President Trump, because they want to freeze any investigation of these issues, both in Ukraine and in China. They're targeting Trump. They're targeting his lawyer, Rudy Giuliani now. And you can see they were nervous about what others were saying about it. It looks like, according to our reporting, from you on down. It's just an incredible list. And, the idea that you would have illegal monitoring of not only all these Fox News journalists, I'm sure all the other media are rushing to your defense, Sean, but the president's lawyer and the president's son, it ought to be concerning that this abuse was taking place. To me, is just another extension of Spygate.
It is, if we have the powerful tools of intelligence, and by the way, this is not the first time in all of this process and all of our coverage that I have been told, I have to go about my daily life. What am I supposed to do?
Right.
That this type of thing has happened to me, and I know to others. So then the question becomes, at what point do the American people step up and say, we can't live in a country that denies fundamental constitutional rights to people, like is happening here? Because to me, we lose the country if the powerful tools of intelligence are turned on the American people. We saw that with the General Flynn case. I mean, what happened in his case is they knew the whole conversation that had taken place because they had raw intelligence. He had been unmasked, and they had the information when McCabe and Comey bragging about taking advantage of the chaos, which he'd never do in the Obama or Bush administration, sending his FBI guys in, and his partner, the deputy director of the FBI, McCabe, is saying you don't need a lawyer. Well, that would deny him his Miranda rights. On that issue alone, the case should be thrown out. But then they went into his office knowing the full conversation because they had unmasked and surveilled him, and he had raw intelligence on the whole conversation. So they were setting him up, and he was immediately in a perjury trap without even the benefit of a lawyer to tell them maybe you should clam up here?
Look, Sean, they're trying to remove a president based on allegations from an anonymous source who it looks like may have illicitly shared classified information with the investigator, Adam Schiff. It's just another variation of the theme of the civil rights of those who are targeted taking a back seat to this power politics where they abuse the rule of law to change political results. It's a constitutional crisis we're in, and it's not because of any misconduct by President Trump. It's because of the misconduct of those investigating him or purporting to be concerned about his activities.
Yeah. What do you think? I know you work with a lot of lawyers. I know you're not a lawyer yourself, but what do you think is the legal recourse if, in fact, such illegality happens to citizens, even people like myself as a public figure? Do I have a right to for recourse or a path for recourse in something like this?
Well, there could be potential violations of the Privacy Act. That's an easy call. The other law that covers this is the Smith-Month Act, which prohibits the U.S. government from propagandizing Americans or targeting them. The State Department especially. So talk to any civil rights lawyer. They probably provide you all sorts of other claims you could pursue when the government's illegally targeting you with a spy operation, even if they are just tracking your public comments. And I guarantee all your listeners would be very nervous to know if if the government was tracking what they were doing and keeping a file on them, which is what purportedly may have been going on here. And we're just trying to figure out what the scope of it was and how far it went. But it's disturbing it took place at all because the government's not allowed to do that. Because obviously it's a chilling effect. And the law doesn't allow it because it's a chilling effect.
All right, Tom Fitton has been doing great work, Freedom of Information Act work, and it takes so long sometimes to get the information. And your work has played a very pivotal role in uncovering this whole, Russiagate fraud from the beginning, and now it's Ukraine fraud, and it's, this never ends. Apparently, they can't accept the election results or the results of 4 separate investigations, culminating with a Mueller report that didn't give them what they wanted. Thanks, Tom Fitton, for being with us. We appreciate it.